with Zach Robinson. I'm Steve Palazzolo. Today discussing NFL draft quarterbacks for 2019. We still have another season to go, Zach, in our evaluation process, but we like to get our top 5 list out there right now and say these are our top guys going into this season. There's still a lot of football to be played, but I know at first glance when we're looking at this class, not as exciting as the last class that just put 5 first-rounders into the NFL.
Yeah, no doubt. There was a bunch of buzz with those guys last summer leading up into the season, and really you're searching for those guys more this year. There looks to be maybe a couple of the upper echelon type of guys, first-round type talent, and then really we're waiting to see some of these guys jump out and maybe kind of elevate themselves throughout the season.
That's why I think a lot of this list could potentially change, because there's not a lot of guys that were just like, all right, these guys are slam dunks, but let's get into it. Starting with our number 5 quarterback heading into the 2019 draft. It's a big shock, Zach. Nobody else has little McKenzie Milton from UCF in their top 5. Part of this speaks to, I think, the class as a whole.
Yeah.
The other part of it speaks to, man, this guy looks like a little wide receiver, but he can make some special plays.
He's just a playmaker, man. I mean, he can do a lot of things. He's just got a great overall feel for the game. I think when you watch him play, the downfield touch, he led all players in 2017 on 20-plus throws, had over 1,800 yards. So his size, he's always going to battle that, but he's crushed the grading. He's played well in big spots. We saw him the second half of that Auburn game kind of picked it up a little bit, but gosh, I mean, he's just a fun guy to watch, and you always feel like he's going to make something happen when he's got the ball in his hands.
When I was scouting for this year's draft, watching Traquan Smith at wide receiver and Jordan Akins at tight end, it was like over and over and over again, Milton standing out with his tight window throws and his, just special. We use the word arm talents quite a bit. I know there were some passes where the velocity is just not there, but he made some off-platform throws. He does just some special natural stuff that, despite his size, I think kind of puts him in the mix as a potential outlier here.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy that can work through multiple reads for coming through a spread type system. You see him work his eyes and feel the pocket and do those things that much like a Jimmy Garoppolo kind of, shorter guy, but very good processor, knows where to go with the ball. So definitely going to see if he can kind of elevate his play even more.
Yeah.
You mentioned some passes that can flutter at the 10 to 19 when he really has to zip it in there. I think that's what you're kind of looking for, if he can just elevate that a little bit. The rest of the stuff is good if you're okay with the size.
Also want to see what happens now with Scott Frost moving on to Nebraska, his former head coach. All right, coming in at number 4, it's Drew Lock of the Missouri Tigers, and he's maybe the opposite of McKenzie Milton from a size and arm strength standpoint, has an absolute cannon. And Lock's an interesting prospect because we've seen him improve every single year at Missouri. His PFF grade has gotten better every single season, but he's also coming out of that old Baylor system, that one read, chuck it down the field like you're playing Madden. It's deep balls all day, maybe throw a screen here and there to mix it up. But a new system coming in to maybe allow him some more pro-style progressions. What do you make of Lock's game and his progression throughout college?
Yeah, absolutely. Elite arm talent, elite downfield thrower, not afraid to let it go at any time. He had the most big-time throws on 20-plus attempts the past 2 seasons combined. So you see the big-time arm. You mentioned I guess how limited that offense is. It's slant, hitch, screen, go. That's about it. And he's cutting the field down in half. Pretty much on every single play. So the new scheme coming in will be very good to see just his overall progression as a player, and if he's a legit guy that can work some of those pocket nuances of working through progressions and kind of feeling the pocket in a tight space.
So we have Derek Dooley, former Tennessee head coach, former Cowboys wide receiver coach. He's coming in and calling the plays, right? And it's going to be a little bit more of the quote-unquote pro-style system. Are there going to be some growing pains here maybe for Locke, even as a senior? Because it's just completely different from what he's done.
No, it definitely could, and hopefully they're not trying to make him something that he's not. If he's going to be primarily a kind of pick-and-stick type thrower, that's not a bad thing with his ability to push the ball down the field and get 20-plus throws. You don't want to force the issue too much. Now, some third downs where you want to see him on 3rd and 8 work from one side to the next. Those are going to be the big plays for him in terms of his, where he ends up in the draft in terms of first-round guy or a legitimate starter down the road.
So given his talent and the progression that he has shown, even in a different system, he's the type of name I think that could could rise on this list with a
Yeah.
really good 2018. So coming in at number 3 now on our top 5, it is Ryan Finley from NC State. Again, this class is not nearly as deep as last year's class. So a guy like Ryan Finley, who does not have nearly, I don't think, the physical tools that a guy like Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold has.
Yeah.
He's number 3 on this list, but he's a pretty good decision maker, has accuracy at the right spots, but not the pure physical talent that you usually expect to see out of first-round quarterbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very steady, consistent player. He's not gonna. He plays well within the system, is what keeps showing up on tape. Gets the ball to the right spot, can work progressions. Looks like a very kind of steady backup type where, like you mentioned, the third guy last year was a surefire first round. So that's just kind of where we're at with these guys, is maybe middle rounds, developmental backups for Ryan Finley, but he's got some natural stuff to his game, and he just is steady and consistent. You kind of know what you're going to get.
All right, coming in at number 2, it's Will Grier from West Virginia. Zach, he's only played a little bit of football. I mean, he played a few games as a redshirt freshman at Florida. He had a steroid suspension. He transfers and sits out going to West Virginia. So last year was his first ever full season of college football. He was outstanding, number 4 in the nation in deep passing yards, throwing the ball down the field. And I thought he really improved his ability to process, see the field, get from read to read. And I was really impressed with his development from what we saw as a redshirt freshman in Florida.
Yeah, he's a very, very confident and fearless player. He's not afraid to push the ball down the seams, over the top of the defense. A number of big-time throws last season. But I like just his poise, hanging in the pocket. You mentioned working multiple reads. He shows a lot of poise just hanging in there, extending the play, and kind of does it in a Baker Mayfield type of way where he's going to hold on and exhaust all of his options before taking off and go. So if there's some rooms to improve, there's room to improve. It's kind of the decision-making under duress.
Yeah.
Last season, Oklahoma State game kind of sticks in mind where he's under pressure and he's letting some balls go that he should not, and just kind of find an outlet, take a sack. That's usually where his kind of bad plays lie.
Yeah, and he got hurt down the stretch last year. His play tapered off a little bit, but one of the best quarterbacks heading into the year from a college standpoint and an NFL draft standpoint. Again, not a great class around everyone else, so he has a big opportunity to maybe put himself in that first-round mix. And then our number 1 quarterback, I don't want to say he's head and shoulders above, but I do think there's a clear difference when we look at Justin Herbert and his skill set over at Oregon. Again, hasn't played a ton of football, but when he's been on the field, has shown the ability to make plays with his arm, with his leg, has all the size and the accuracy you're looking for at the next level.
Yeah, no, huge guy, highly athletic, great arm talent. And what keeps sticking out is he's a good decision maker. He's a consistent decision maker, accurate to all the levels. So of all these guys, he definitely has the most tools to work with in terms of a potential franchise guy. But you mentioned just, do you want to see him play a full season,
right,
and get through the full season, see if he can kind of clean up some of those things that we've seen in the past, getting to second reads with accuracy and those types of things, which I would expect him to keep getting better because he keeps getting better.
Yeah, so you did a full breakdown on Herbert over on the YouTube channel. Be sure to check that out, where we went through a few plays and showed off that arm. I do think when you compare him to everyone else but maybe Drew Lock, Lock's got the nice arm, but Herbert, compared to the other guys on this list, has the arm and the velocity to really create big-time throws.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Herbert is the guy to kind of look in terms of the top 10 true franchise guy. If he can still elevate his play a little bit, he's that guy. Will Grier is the other guy that's kind of, the size. He's not the biggest guy, but he's just a playmaker. If Baker Mayfield plays this season, has some success, you can see teams buying into that style of play.
Teams do that. If Baker opens the door for another shorter quarterback, teams do think like that.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. So they'll kind of maybe group those two guys together. Obviously, playing the Big 12, similar competition and similar schemes as well. So it's an interesting group. We'll see if there's obviously guys that we haven't even got to see yet, if they can make a name for themselves and kind of jump into this top 5 list.
Yeah, so we're a couple years removed from a guy like Mitch Trubisky going from almost a no-name, but who we did have as a breakout player at PFF, but he becomes the number 3 overall pick. He becomes a first-round pick. I'm not saying these next guys will, but any other names to just keep an eye on? I do see we have a 6 through 10 listed at ProFootballFocus.com with some interesting names that other people may not have on their radar.
Yeah, no, I think one of the most intriguing guys to watch is Manny Wilkins from Arizona State. Definitely been a little bit under the radar, but kind of has like arm talent-wise and the look of a Patrick Mahomes, ability to flick it from kind of any position. So you like that. You want to see him just clean up some of his stuff in the pocket and not take off and go too soon. But and then a guy that we've kind of been talking about is Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State. Very limited snaps, but he's got some big-time ability, and we'll just see if he can kind of put it all together, and it's going to be fun to watch him play.
If there's a guy that could make that Trubisky move, I think it might be Haskins, just what we've seen from his arm. Spring game last year looked pretty good, and then last year against Michigan when he had a chance to play. So keep an eye on Dwayne Haskins as well at Ohio State. So there you have it. It's our top 5 quarterbacks. As of now, heading into the 2019 draft, we have a whole nother season to play, so these rankings certainly can change. Check out the full list over at ProFootballFocus.com and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for even more great NFL draft content.